everybody, welcome back to Out of Body. My name is Sabrina, and today I'm going to be going more in depth into the paranormal sort of investigation that I did. I actually did go back and investigate a little bit further, and let me just tell you that I found out some interesting things about the building I work in. So if you'd like to hear more about that, keep watching. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say that I didn't film any of this. That's why I'm sitting down and talking about it. But what I did do is the Ghost app that I was using on my phone. I actually did a screen capture, like recording my screen. So it was recording everything that the app was picking up. So I will have that somewhere probably over here for you guys to look at while I'm talking about it and going through it. And I'm probably going to split up this video into two parts just because there's a lot that I need to talk about in this. The interesting thing is that I did indeed find the spirit again, and I did communicate with them. Just to clarify as well, I do have clairaudience, so I am able to, sense spirits. I'm an empath as well, so I can sense energies. I can communicate via clairaudience or via kind of like almost like telepathy or something. Like in my mind, I can communicate with spirits. So the app I only really use is kind of a backup, and also just to kind of provide a little bit of proof to you guys of what I was hearing. Because a lot of times I would ask a question in my mind and I would hear it in my head, and then I would look down at my phone and then it would pop up. And I also want to put out there, for those of you who may think that, since I was using a smartphone, that with like the speech technology, if I say something out loud, then my phone's gonna like just put that word on the screen. I didn't say anything out loud during this entire session because I was at work. I was on break, but I wasn't speaking out loud to the spirit at all. I was speaking through my mind, so there was no words being spoken out loud. So I just want to put that out there for anyone who might be like, oh, well, you probably just said something out loud and then it popped up on the screen because your phone heard it. But no, that's not the case. All right, so without any further ado, whatever that means, I'm going to get into this video right now. Okay, so you can kind of see over here what the screen looks like on the app. So basically it's got these bars, these green bars that go up and down that kind of show you if there's any electrical energy coming near you. The higher the bars go and the more red that they change in color is how close the spirit is coming to you, and you'll see that here in a little bit. And then the little box below that, the blue box that has the 3 dots at the moment, that will come up with your words. Any message that the spirit is trying to manipulate the phone to produce, that's the words that will pop up there. And sometimes it's just one word, and sometimes it's like 2 or 3. Okay, so you can see the first word that came up was yield, and you can see the bars are just going crazy and they're red. At that point, I could feel a spirit near me because I can sense those things, so it verified it for me that my phone was going off because I could already feel it. Yield, I don't know what that meant. Not every word that comes up on the screen is going to mean something. From what I have heard, for a spirit to manipulate either a ghost box or, app like this, it takes a fairly large amount of energy for them to do that. So when you think about it, even sometimes when we're communicating with each other, we don't quite communicate things the way we want, or it doesn't come across the way we want. So that's the way I like to think about it with this, is that some words may not even make sense because it didn't translate the way it was supposed to. But then I just kind of wait and ask them a couple of questions and see like, okay, what do they want to tell me? And at the beginning of the session, that's what I was doing. I was asking like, okay, what's your name? Is there something you want to tell me? Is there anything I can do for you? And I made it very clear at the beginning, I protected myself. I was aligned with my spirit guide. I made sure I was protected. So I want to throw that out there too. And I said, I specifically want to talk to this one spirit that came through last time, and nobody else is welcome, just this one person, if you're still here, so I made all that really clear. So basically, okay, at this point, it comes up with the word bones. What I asked before that was I asked, why do you linger here? Because I couldn't really get the person to like tell me a name or anything. Eventually a name does come up on there, but I don't know that it was actually the person's name or not. But the word bones comes up on the screen. So I thought, okay, does that mean you're buried here? Are your bones buried somewhere at this location? I'm kind of really skipping through this, but I just want to, it's a whole lot to go through, so I just want to make it a little bit short and sweet for you guys. But the next thing that comes up is intent. And so I thought, okay, maybe the spirit is actually apprehensive about talking to me, because there's not a whole lot coming through, and I'm asking questions and I'm not hearing a whole lot through my clairaudience either. It's kind of muffled. So at that point I felt like, okay, well, maybe the spirit's a little bit apprehensive and a little bit hesitant to talk to me or to trust me. So with that word intent coming up, I just felt like, well, maybe that spirit's actually asking me for my intentions. So at that point I thought, okay, well, just in case that is what he or she is asking, then I'm just going to go ahead and tell them, my full intent is not to exploit you, not to make fun of you or anything. I'm communicating for the sole purpose of trying to help you. And that is the literal truth. I just want to help any spirits of light and love that are just confused or, don't realize that they're dead or whatever and just need help crossing over. That's literally all I want to do. And I didn't even mention the words crossing over. I just said, when I was communicating. Yeah, so right after intention comes up on the screen, need it comes next. So I figured that the person was trying to say, I need your intention before I'll speak to you. And so that's when I kind of went through, telling the person that I'm come in peace, basically. I'm just here to help you in any way I can. If there's a message you want me to get across, if there's something you want me to find or to do, or just anything you need to help you. Okay, so then I kind of basically try to find out what the person's name is, and at that point I get a few different names. I get Nicholas, I think, is one of them. I think I got David before that. I kind of got, and then Ellie pops up now. And so I got a lot of different names. I'm not sure which one was really correct, or if they were just names of maybe family members or something like that. So I didn't really take too much into the names. I also forgot to mention that before I started recording my phone, there were a couple of words that came up initially, and those words were horse and Indian. So I thought, okay, because I think at first, from what I remember, I was asking, what do they know what year it is? Do they know what time period they came from or when they died? And then they said horse and Indian. So I thought, okay, maybe they died a long, long time ago in this area, back when there were still, people on horseback, and maybe there's a lot of Indians around here. Native Americans, I should say. I don't know. I don't know if that's what that meant or if it meant anything, but that's kind of knowing what I know about what happens next, kind of further into this. I think that might be the case. It might have been during, maybe during the Civil War or pre-Civil War times. It's kind of what I'm thinking, because later on the person mentions a war. So then, as you can see, the red bars are really, really going crazy at this point after the name Ellie. So I don't know if that was the person's name. I did kind of figure out later on that this was a female spirit. So Ellie may have been her name. At that point, I asked something like, is there a loved one that you're trying to find? Is there someone you're trying to find? And then the word found came up, and I thought, okay, so maybe there's not a loved one, or there's someone, or maybe they've already found everything they need to find. I'm not sure what that meant, or maybe that was confirming, yes, I need to find someone. And that was one of those instances as well where when I asked the question in my mind, is there someone that you're trying to find, in my mind I heard no, no, there's no one I need to find. And then on the screen it popped up found. So that kind of validated it in a way to me that, that wasn't why the person needed to communicate with me. Okay, but then the words I am not pop up on the screen, and I don't think I asked anything before that popped up. So I'm thinking what that might have meant is that the person was saying, know, like, I need to be found. Like, I haven't been found. And the reason why I feel that way, especially now, is because of what happens later. And I won't go into that. I won't ruin it now, but it's kind of neat that I feel like somebody that knew this person ended up coming and finding them and helping them move on. That's what I believe anyway, based on what happens later. But very, very, very interesting indeed. But now that I look at this, I think that's what it means. You know, it says found and then I am not. Next, I do know that I said I had to like end the session really quickly because someone came in the room or something, and I don't know. It's not that I was doing anything wrong, but I just didn't want anybody to know like what I was doing. So I like put it away for a second, and then when the person left the break room or whatever, then I started it back up. But I kind of said in my head like, you know, I'm sorry or something, or I think I was also having trouble kind of hearing the messages, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to listen, I'm not really understanding. And then the word no shame came up. So it was almost like the person was like, that's okay, you know, no shame. So it's really kind of interesting, the interaction that I was getting. Okay, so that was the end of the session for that day, and then I ended up coming back the next day and doing it, since I was doing this kind of during my breaks and everything. You know, I couldn't do like a big one long session, so I would kind of do a little bit and then I would close out the session and then I would come back and do it another day. So the next day when I opened up the session again, the word came up, Lynn. Again, I don't even know if I asked anything at that point or if that word just came up, but you know, the bars were going crazy, so I knew that the person had come back. Okay, so there's kind of a bunch of random words that come up, like pine and I think warm came up. But then after that, the word sin comes up, which was interesting to me, and I thought, okay, you know, what is that? You know, I was kind of a little bit like, okay, am I speaking to the same person, you know? And I kind of clarified that and felt like I was, you know, I was in tune with my spirit guide, and I felt like he was verifying, yes, you know, like you're speaking to the same person again, it's okay, you know. But I was kind of like, okay, what does sin mean? Like, I don't understand that, you know. And I asked the person to clarify, and then something kind of freaked me out. The words fear me came up on the screen. Fear me. I was like, okay, what? Like, who am I talking to now? Like, what's going on? And I was a little bit scared, but I was also like standing my ground, like, okay, I don't fear you. So, you know, if you're trying to scare me, if you're not who I was talking to the other day, then you're not welcome here. You know, I want to speak to the person I was talking to the other day. You know, like, this is not okay. And then the next thing that comes on the screen is very interesting. And I was listening with my clairaudience as well and trying to hear what was going on. And I kept, you know, kind of hearing my spirit guide say, it's okay, there's nothing malicious, you know, it's all right. So after all of that, and I'm a little bit low-key freaking out, but also just kind of like, okay, like, I'm standing up to this spirit, you know, like, I don't fear you, you know, I'm here for good reasons and for light and love, like, I'm not afraid of you. And then the next word that comes up on the screen is tease. So at that point I felt like, is this maybe like a child spirit? You know, someone who's kind of, you know, childlike and trying to tease me or something, like fear me, you know. Obviously they've been kind of haunting this location for quite a while, and I don't feel like they're malicious, but maybe they felt like comfortable with me and they felt like they could kind of tease me. And so that word came up and I thought, okay, that's interesting. Okay, and so after that, I started to feel a really, really intense feeling like the person was like right next to me. And of course I looked at my phone and the bars were going crazy and they were bright red. And I was kind of asking, okay, like, what's going on? Like, is there something you want to say? And the person said binding. So it freaked me out a little bit at that point too, because I was like, what does that mean? You know, is like spirit trying to bind with me? Are they trying to possess me or something? Like, and then the word quickly comes up, and so I'm not sure what that was referring to either. Like I said, there's some random words mixed in with this. I think maybe what they were trying to do is kind of comfort me and let me know, like I'm bonding with you, I trust you, you know, you can trust me. That's kind of what I think in hindsight, looking back on it after everything else that happens next. Okay, so I basically asked the person, is there something that you want me to tell the world? Is there a message? Since there wasn't really a person they were wanting me to find, I thought, is there something else, like a message you want me to tell people? And then the word about came up. So I thought, in my mind, I kind of understood at that moment that they were saying that they want the world to know about them. They want to know that they exist. So at that point, I tried to ask them, okay, I want to know more about you then. What do you remember anything about how you died or what was going on when you died or anything like that? And the word army came up. Now, initially, I thought, that this was a man that was in the army. But later on, I kind of confirmed it was a little bit different. I think what was really going on is that there were armies around when this person died, and there was a war going on, but this person wasn't necessarily involved in the war, but that's what was happening around them. And when I asked, how did you die or what happened to you, the word struck came up. So I thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, well, maybe this person was struck by someone or maybe shot or something. And then right after that, the word legs comes up. So I thought, okay, maybe someone was struck in the legs. I was still kind of trying to verify, what's going on, what are you trying to tell me? Okay, then the thing that I asked was, do you only linger at this location? Like in this building, or do you are you from somewhere else, or do you just kind of haunt this building or whatever? And then the word only came up. So like only, yes, only here. And then I asked why, I was like, why here? So if you're only here, if you only linger in this building, why? And then the word tomb came up. And if you remember earlier when I asked, why that person was there, they said bones. So I think that somehow maybe someone actually is buried under our building. I don't know, maybe from a long, long time ago, before the building was ever built or anything. There might be some sort of tomb under the building, or maybe it's just one person that was buried there. I don't know, but it made it very interesting, and it was a little bit eerie too, because I was like, wow, and I felt kind of bad too, because I thought, well, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't dig under the building, I can't find somebody's bones and, I don't know, bring it all to light. I can't really do that, but, hopefully there's something else I can do to help this person. So right after tomb came up, the word among us came up. So I thought, okay, that confirms that, this person's saying that there is, that they're buried here among us, like here somewhere in this building or below. After that, a couple of other words come up like sample and speed. I wasn't sure what that meant, but I know I was kind of asking a little bit more about if they know who killed them, like who struck them down. I mean, the word speed came up, so maybe that meant they were struck really quickly. Then the word bad came up, and then different. Now, when different came up, right before that, I think I had asked, was it like another soldier that has struck you? Because at the time I thought this was like a soldier I was talking to. Was it a fellow soldier that struck you down? Was it the enemy lines? Was it someone else, that struck you down? Or was it someone different? Was it someone other than a soldier? And then the word different came up. So I was like, okay, so it was someone else. And the next word that comes up is wailing. Like, wailing, like, you hear in the Bible, like, wailing and grinding of teeth, like people like wailing and screaming and suffering. So I thought, okay, maybe this was during a wartime and there was people wailing and yelling and all of that. And then the word pair comes up. And this was when I was really trying to ask the person, okay, do you know who killed you? Do you know how many people or what happened? Who was involved in your death? And then it said pair. And later on, now that I think about this, it makes complete sense, because I think there might have been at least 2 people involved in this person's death. So the next thing I ask is, because the building I work in has like 4 floors, and I work in the 2nd floor, and so I asked, I tend to sense you mostly on the 2nd floor. Do you linger there, or do you kind of just linger anywhere in this building? And then the words all around came up. So I was like, oh, okay, so they must be buried under the building, and they just kind of linger all around this building, this area. So all around came up, and then the word phantom came up. So that kind of made me think like, okay, so you're saying that you're a ghost and you kind of haunt this whole area. So at that point, I do my thing again where I start asking a lot of questions in my mind because I'm curious, and I'm like, okay, do you remember, who was involved in your death? Do you remember anything about your death? Do you remember what the time period was? I was asking all these questions and not just listening to the person because I was just kind of excited in a way and also interested. And then the word interrupt came up. And so at that point, I silenced myself and I was like, okay, I'm going to listen. What do you have to say? So I'm going to again say that out loud or in my mind or in any way, I never mentioned the word crossover. I never mentioned helping this person cross over. Obviously, that is something that I had hoped to do, but I didn't specifically communicate that to the spirit. So they just said interrupt, and then I listened. And then the word crossover came up. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because I never even mentioned that. I mean, of course, that's something I would like to do for someone, but I hadn't mentioned it before. And then right away, before I can even really react to the fact that they said crossover, the word myself popped up. Crossover myself. So that was very, very validating for me. I thought, okay, this person is feeling like they're stuck here. There's no one they need to find. Maybe they don't even know anyone that's still on Earth anymore. It's probably been so many years and they just want to cross over, but maybe they don't know how. And that really touched me because that's something I've always wanted to help with. For ghosts and spirits, I've always wanted to do that. Sounds weird, I guess, but ever since I was a child, I always dreamed of doing that someday, helping people. Ever since I found out what a ghost was or what a spirit was, I wanted to, someday be able to communicate with them and to help people move on and cross over, because I always thought it was sad that people linger after they die. I don't ever feel like that's, yes, it's fascinating, but I don't ever feel like it's cool per se, that there's ghosts and stuff like that. Like, yeah, it's fascinating and interesting, but at the same time, I've always found it sad, and I always feel like, I wouldn't want to linger here after I die. I'd want to move on, so I always wanted to, if I was able to help someone cross over, and not have to linger here anymore. So when that came up, I was very touched, and I was like, of course, if that is what your intentions are, if that's what you want, I will 100% do everything I can to help you cross over. Anything that's in my power, I will help you. So then after that, I tried to just, get them again to tell me their name. I kind of think maybe they just didn't remember what their name was, or who they were, really. They remembered how they died and what happened, but they didn't really remember who they were, or maybe it just wasn't coming across. Because I asked, and then the name Jake came up, and then a couple other names. But then, I just kind of confirmed again, that you do want me to help you cross over. And then the word decided came up. So, I've decided, yes, this is what I want. So at that point, I, thanked the person. I closed out the session. So that was the end of that session. And this, I think, is where I'm going to leave this video because the next part of this gets a little bit more intense. So disclaimer, I will say for the next video is that I learned more about how this person died, and there was some abuse involved. Now, if that is something that is a trigger for you, then when my next video, part 3, comes up, just skip it, don't click on it. But if you were generally interested in, what happened to this person, and you want to know more about it, and that's not a trigger for you necessarily, then go ahead and watch my next video when it comes up. But I appreciate you guys if you got to the end of this. I think this is going to be a long video. But I appreciate you guys watching and being interested and being open-minded. And anyway, give this a like and subscribe if you're not already. And let me know in the comments below what you think about this. And if you'd like to see me do more stuff like this in the future, I would like to do more paranormal investigations. So anyway, yeah, I will see you guys in part 3. Bye.